here's Brody Brazil.
I suppose this is kind of just a sad state of the times, but I didn't even realize until today, as I'm recording this video, that tonight the San Francisco Giants are going to be hosting the Athletics in San Francisco for a weekend series. In what used to be known as the Battle of the Bay, we definitely cannot call it that anymore, but I really wanted to, in this video, kind of make the point that I don't think there's a rivalry anymore between the A's and Giants. Yeah, there's history, and yeah, there's a backstory, and yeah, there's a lot of fans right now that are kind of in the middle of not exactly knowing what to do or how to treat this, but I think we can officially declare the rivalry over. It kind of devolved anyway in the final 10 years or so of coexistence in the Bay Area. I'll talk about that in just a second. But real quick, I just wanted to run across a few things of why I don't feel like this should be considered a rivalry anymore. Number one is bad geography. These two teams were separated by about 9 miles as the crow flies for a lot of years, whether it was Candlestick in the Coliseum or Pac Bell Park and the Coliseum. It's about 9 miles if you were a bird to get from one ballpark to another. If there's traffic and you're driving, sometimes that could be an hour. But from 9 miles to now 90 miles up Interstate 80, but it kind of feels like 900 miles if you're still somebody here who's a baseball fan in the Bay Area. It feels like the A's have crossed the country. They might as well have, right? What's the difference at this point if you're done with them and not going to see them? So distance alone makes the geography bad math here. It's not a geographical rivalry anymore. The Athletics, in fact, they don't even identify with the city. Yeah, they're playing their games in West Sacramento, maybe headed to Las Vegas, maybe headed to the moon. They don't even want to take on a city's name right now. They don't even want to call themselves the Las Vegas A's who are just playing in Sacramento. They don't want to do that. So it's hard to have a rivalry when one team proudly claims where they're from and the other team is just a team. The A's are also obviously playing in the Giants' AAA minor league park, the park that used to be their own AAA minor league park. Until the River Cats decided to split their relationship with the A's, they wanted to side with the more popular team in the Bay Area, the one that was actually trying harder and had more of a marketing campaign and a growing fan base. So the River Cats stopped what they were doing with the A's. They went over to the Giants side, and they have been ever since. And in terms of geography, the last point to make here, you can call this the I-80 series. Yeah, I mean, okay, but you had such an iconic symbol of separation as the Bay Bridge, which was part of the 1989 World Series and the earthquake, the Loma Prieta quake of October 17th, when part of that bridge fell down. And it was such a bonding moment for our community. And I realize a lot of you, maybe even most of you watching this, are too young of a demographic to have remembered those days, but I can't stress enough how important, how valuable our two Bay Area teams were, and the rare chance that they met in the World Series of '89, and our region had a natural disaster during, right before Game 3, 5:04 p.m., and what all of that meant. Like, the timing of that was like lightning that struck, and it'll never strike like that again. I mean, hopefully not. Nobody wants an earthquake. But the point is, you had that iconic symbol of either the Battle of the Bay or the Bay Bridge series. And now what do you have? Like, there's nothing but an interstate, a kind of a boring I-80 that connects these two teams. So bad geography is a simple number one. The A's don't really have a fan base anymore. Now, I'm already going to hear it in the comments. Of course, there's A's fans. There's some people that stick with a team just because of their colors, or they don't care about ownership or relocation, or they're A's fans in Texas or Cleveland or Miami or whatever. I realize that. I'm saying the fan base, the base of fans that existed geographically where the team existed in Oakland, in the East Bay, all parts, not just the city of Oakland, not just Alameda County, but Contra Costa County, into the Central Valley, you name it. Whatever the A's fan base once was, that doesn't exist anymore, not even close. It was basically forced to extinction over years of trading away players and not being able to lock down a stadium, and then having rooted in Oakland as a campaign, but then parallel paths as a campaign. And so most people, I think, who are rooting for the A's right now, if you're a hardcore A's fan right now, you're probably from Sacramento and you're probably disconnected from whatever happened. You likely just don't have the grasp of the last 10 years of this franchise. You don't know, probably, for the most part, how it went across the last decade, or it doesn't impact you, so you just don't care. So I'm saying that for that rivalry to be built up and exist, you need two fan bases that have that history, that have that momentum, that have that feeling for and towards each other. The A's side doesn't have that anymore. How could they? The same fans that were pulling as hard as they could and bleeding green and gold 10, 12, 15 years ago. That just doesn't exist. So how is that a rivalry? And in fact, many former A's fans who are here in the Bay Area, they've already said, whether it's in the last year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to the other side where a team tries a little bit harder to win and keep their players and has one of the best ballparks in baseball and is still in my region. So the fan base doesn't exactly exist like it ever used to. The A's actually kind of degraded the rivalry in the 2010s. It became an especially lopsided rivalry for the final at least decade. I should really say 15 years, right? More so from like 2010 all the way to 2024. This rivalry became so lopsided, so one-way focused towards the Giants. And what I mean by that is that the A's cycled through their talented roster multiple times over. I mean, there were portions where if you look at the other side of the Bay, you're thinking in 2017 or 18, man, those Giants would probably love to have Matt Olson and Marcus Semien and Matt Chapman. And yes, I realize Matt Chapman has been on the Giants now for a couple years. Like they went out and got exactly what they wanted. Proves my point, right? And how did the A's do in keeping Matt Chapman and keeping Matt Olson and keeping Marcus Semien and keeping a Sean Murphy? And I could go on and on and on. Like they didn't try. And they also didn't secure the kind of ballpark that the Giants had. The Giants did it. They did it 25 years ago now, right around the turn of the century. And so many A's fans looked at that and said, well, why can't this team, I mean, they're in the same region. They're not up against any different challenges than the Giants are. Why can't they market themselves? Why can't they try as hard? Why can't they keep a team together? Like I said, imagine what the Giants would have done with the A's core of the late 2010s. And keeping that group together. They would have possibly won another couple World Series with that group, keeping them together. Instead, the A's, right after the lockout, fire sale. Everybody's gone within a matter of a couple days. What was that, going out of 2021 into 2022 or 23? I'm getting lost in the years. 22, started 22. But the point is, yeah, like the A's almost sabotaged this rivalry and themselves, obviously, as part of the process. And the last thing I want to point out here is that history kind of matters. And I realize people will say, well, it'll always be a rivalry because of what it used to be. But this is now generations of fandom and generations of the rivalry that are gone. There were 57 years of overlap with the Bay Area teams. Obviously, the Giants came out here first with the Dodgers, and then the A's joined them, a decade or so after that. But 57 years of overlap means that you had parents raising kids to be fans of one team because they were, maybe even because their parents were. You may have had up to 3 generations, if the timing works out, of fandom for a certain team, picking a side in the Bay Area. This rivalry in the Bay Area was also great because it brought out the casual fans, right? People who didn't necessarily care about baseball all the time. Oh, but when it was their friends and family and neighbors and coworkers talking about A's and Giants, then they wanted to go to the game. They wanted to be part of that. All those casual fans now are just like, whatever. We don't even know. We don't even know they're playing each other tonight in a series. I think they'll meet again 4th of July weekend up in West Sacramento. But yeah, this rivalry brought out the casual fans that are probably now either Giants fans or just don't watch as much baseball anymore. And the fan bases, when they did exist, and maybe when they were thriving in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, again, I feel like the 2010s were the process of disintegration for the A's and their fan base. But each team during those decades, they forged a unique identity and a fan base, and they weren't carbon copies of each other. I realized that for a while, the Coliseum and Candlestick kind of posed the same problems. The Giants fixed that problem. The A's kind of doubled down on their problem. Mount Davis became a thing out there in center field. But each team and fan base had something unique and special. They weren't trying to be each other, which was great. until one team just kind of stopped trying at all. And now when we see all the history, we see, for example, MLB tweeted the other day some moment of the '89 World Series in the final out when Tony Phillips flicks it to Eckersley's covering first, and that's it. The A's sweep the '89 World Series. And they were trying to boast about Rivalry Week. Well, what is the rivalry anymore? And why would you choose to glamorize something that was so special that you allowed to become extinct? You allowed this, Major League Baseball. You unanimously allowed this. And so now I realize we will talk about the historical context. Well, they've always had a thing. Well, yeah, they did. But you know what? Now for 50% of that rivalry that, in my opinion, doesn't exist anymore, now it's just a reminder of wrongs, right? It's like thinking about somebody, and maybe we'll feel different in a decade, but it's like a reminder of somebody who's no longer with us. It still might bring some very sad feelings and angry feelings, and depending on how they're not around anymore, what caused it, and the situation, like in this, was, kind of a bad situation, it's just a reminder of wrongs. So history does exist, but history isn't necessarily thought fondly of. So look, I put this video together super quick, maybe kind of rambled on it. Maybe you agree with some of the points, all the points, none of the points. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But to summarize, in my opinion, for those reasons I just stated, there just simply isn't a rivalry anymore between the Giants and A's, and especially, if they ultimately do land in Las Vegas, then you can definitely say there's no more rivalry. But even right now, 90 miles away, it's not like 9 miles away. Feels like 9,000 miles away. Thumbs up down below. That greatly helps me, this video, this channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button also down there so I can definitely see you back here next time.